Okay, well, hi everyone, and thank you very much for watching or listening today. Liam Hartree here today with another episode of Presenting Champions for the Simply Inspired podcast. And today I'm joined by a very special guest, professional sprinter from Newport, Wales, Joshua Brown, who previously competed in rugby before transitioning over to sprinting, to athletics. This man has some great achievements, including the Welsh 60 meters indoor championship. Competed in the Welsh Athletics Championship, first place in 2018, Welsh Indoor Athletics, second place 2017, that was 60 metres as well, competed at the British Indoor Athletics Championship. As I mentioned, had a history before that playing rugby, Pontypool RFC. But the cool thing about this man's story today is the best is yet to come. He's achieved a great deal, obviously transitioned from one sport into having tremendous success in another, but the best is yet to come. So Josh, thank you very much for coming on the show, and absolute pleasure to have you here today. Thank you.
No problem. Pleasure's mine to be here.
Absolutely. So, we'll talk about a bit of everything today. We'll talk about the past, we'll talk about the future and everything. But I am going to go back in time with you for just a moment and talk about the rugby side of things, because that is where you started. Now, we won't linger on this because we have a lot to talk about with sprinting, what you're known for. But as I mentioned, a transition from one sport to another is very cool. So, can you share with us a little bit about what happened? Because at the time, when you were injured playing rugby, I'm sure it didn't seem like a blessing at that time. Am I right?
No, as you're aware, rugby has many of injuries, being such an immense contact sport. So, yeah, when I used to play, I used to pick up injuries all the time. Broken wrists, broken ribs, and things like that, ankles and stuff. And it is hard, of course. And each injury takes you out for longer each time. And it's very hard mentally, of course. Sometimes it's hard to see a light at the end of the tunnel. And especially when you're so young as well. You can't really see things in hindsight, so it can be hard for sure.
Absolutely. So we'll talk more about that in just a moment. But before we do, how long were you actually playing rugby, all in all?
I gotta look back in the years now. So I started when I was 16 and I stopped playing by about 20. So I'll say about 3.5, 4 years. Yeah,
Yeah, very cool. And
yeah.
just to give a quick mention to some of your personal highlights from that time, do you have certain favorite memories from those few years playing rugby before the injury and before everything changed for you?
Yeah, so I started playing rugby about 16. I went straight into rugby league scouting, got selected, and then ended up having my under 16 caps for Wales at rugby league. So I had two caps in a year when I was about 16, 17. Obviously, it was a proud achievement of mine. From then, I went back to Union, went back to the Dragons age grade. So I played Dragons rugby then, age grade rugby, which is obviously a proud achievement as well. A lot of the guys who I used to play with in age grade rugby have signed professional now and are doing very well for themselves. Like the likes of Ashton Hewitt, Hallam Amos, Jack Dixon, just a few of the names to mention who I used to play around with when I was a bit younger. So it's obviously just nice to see them guys do their thing as well. But also nice to see that they can see that I've done my thing as well on the other side of sport.
Absolutely, yeah. I love that turning a negative into a positive is an amazing thing to be doing. So let's get into it full pelt with the sprinting side of things as well. Oh, I also need to, I forgot this in the intro, but a shout out to Junior Borg as well, because he was the one who introduced us on Facebook. So Junior, thank you for that, mate, as well. I just wanted to get his name in there, but yeah.
Yes, Jun, big up Junior.
Yeah, big up Junior, man. Yeah, top guy and his dad as well.
For sure, for sure.
Amazing individuals, absolutely. Anyway, so yeah, let's talk about that from the beginning in terms of coming from the injury, transitioning into sprinting and everything that you're doing now. With these interviews, I never dwell on any of the negatives, right? So with this, it's not so much focusing on the injury and what happened, give it a mention, sure, but it's more like that transitional phase, that first phase where you're thinking, okay, the rugby's not going to work now, but there's still something I can do, specifically from the mindset side. Because what's cool about this is obviously in life, things go wrong for people. You know, people lose jobs, people lose relationships, people get knocked back, and obviously they have to bounce back, and you bounce back and then some, because obviously everything comes next is
Yeah.
is amazing. So that initial time of basically starting your sprinting journey and getting into that, what was that time like for you?
So after I finished rugby, I didn't do sport for about 2 years or so. Obviously having injuries, and then when going on to play for Pontypool and stuff like that. So I'm playing a men's game then. I'm with the seniors, and obviously, as you know, with the seniors, there's a lot of politics. Being how young I was at the time, I wasn't quite sure how to deal with the politics. So having that with the injuries was a lot on my head as well. So I just thought, you know what, let me just like take a back step from sport, which I did. I didn't think I was going to end up going back, but as you get older, you mature, your mindset's different. And one day I just realized, but you know what, I'm 20, 21, I've got a lot to give in life and in sport. So the reason why I was good at rugby was because I was fast. So let's give it a crack at another sport, which I think I'll be good at. And I did. I just went straight into it, full steam ahead.
Absolutely. And during those 2 years or that time when you were away from it, during that time specifically, did you, I mean, I know you said you wanted to go back into the rugby, but did you ever expect to be having the sporting success that you're having now, if you get what I mean? Obviously, you switched sports as well, but did you ever expect that, or at that point were you considering that any type of sporting career could have been basically over with, at that time, if you get what I mean with this?
Yeah, yeah. To be completely honest with you, without sounding anywhere near arrogant at all, I always knew that once I step back into sport, I will have some success. Um, I think, like you said, it's a mindset thing. Before you go into anything in life, you have to have that sort of mindset. But like whatever you go into, you're going to achieve it to your best of your ability. And I'm not a type of person to be one foot in. So I knew that I said to myself one time, I said, next year I'm going to start athletics and I'm going to be one of the best ever sprinters in Wales. And a few years down the line, and I'm top 10 fastest Welsh ever, well, top 10 fastest Welsh sprinters alive. So it's been a good ride.
Absolutely, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, okay. So you obviously went into that sport again. The early days of training. You already had the speed from rugby. I was guessing that they would complement each other somewhere, but that makes sense. So then, in terms of like your early days training, from everything I've read and everything I've seen, it looks like you took to it like a duck to water. I mean, was that actually the case? Right from the beginning of training in athletics.
I suppose so. Obviously, I was never the best when I started, but for sure, I was very decent to say the least. I picked up speed pretty quick, pretty quick. Even though I was new to athletics, I was never new to sport, so I could pick up things quite quick. And God blessed me to have a great team around me. I had a great coach at the time, Jock Anderson, who coached Christian Malcolm, one of Britain's most talented sprinters we've ever had. So I was in great hands, and I have to thank God for that. And I had also a few other coaches around me helping out who were just amazing guys. Kevin Williams, Doug Turner, those guys who were representing Great Britain, Wales at Commonwealth Games, broken various records and stuff like that. So I had a good team around me to always make sure I was stepping in the right direction when it came to track. Um, in terms of the training, obviously it was very different. It was a lot of running. Um, a lot of running, and I suppose the weights are different as well because you're not training yourself to compete in an 80-minute rugby match. You're training yourself to compete for 10 seconds in a race. So having that was a bit different. But apart from that, it was a good. I took to it quite well. I suppose there was a lot of sacrifices which I needed to make. It's a complete different environment. I suppose like you play rugby, sometimes you might have a pint with the boys after and stuff like that. Athletics, it's not the case. I myself now as an athlete do this, but when I first started, I used to see like people say they go months on end without having a drink. And I used to like never understand why, because I came from a rugby background where you finish a rugby match, you have a drink with the boys, go home and stuff like that. But I realized that there's such fine margins in this sport that there's no room for error. So I soon realized that there was a lot of sacrifices which had to be made, and I made the decision to make them.
Absolutely. I love that, because that's the side of things that people don't see from the outside looking in, so other athletes will know about the sacrifices, but people, just watch the race or whatever, people hear about your journey, they don't see the sacrifices, the dedication, they see those 10 seconds, but there's so much behind the scenes. And as well as that, I like what you touched on there about who you surround yourself with as well, because for people listening to this, whether you're an athlete or not, whoever you spend the most time with is basically who you become in the end, isn't it? I mean,
Exactly.
that's the sum total. So great life lessons there as well. Power of association, I love it. So obviously, you've had a lot of success in a short time, really. I mean, you've had a lot of success. So I'd like to take this opportunity for you to share which races or which events are your personal favorites, because as much as I'd love to talk about them all, the way I usually condense this down for people is, to ask the person,
Yeah.
in this case yourself, which ones mean the most to you and why, please. A big question, I know, but let's start there. Thank you.
I suppose I got a few. Um, I would suppose you say the race which means a lot to me would be the first ever Welsh champs I competed in. I think it would have been 2016, and this is obviously when I was hot on the block. I was the new kid. I was running quite well. There was obviously a few guys who were the top guys who have been there for a while who were running better. But I was hot on their heels, and I went to my first Welsh champs. I was really excited. Made the finals, very excited. But then obviously it took a turn for the worse, and I false started. And it's funny why you asked for this, because even though you're asking me what race was my best race or do I remember the most, but this race was the most important to me because it taught me so much lessons, which made me the athlete I am today. So I came to the finals. I was so excited to put on a show for my friends, family, and stuff. And the maturity levels I had at the time wasn't where it is now. I jumped the gun. I false started. I cried my eyes out. It wasn't a great day at the time, but then my coach said to me, "So listen, remember this feeling now, and every time you get on the line, you'll know, but you'll never do it again." And touch wood, I've been in track now 7, 8 years, and I've only ever false started twice, sorry, and I've raced hundreds and hundreds of times. And I'll always take that lesson with me, because every time I'm in majors now, like major finals, major champs, whether it'll be British champs, Welsh champs, or big races, and I'm in the blocks in the final, I'll always remember to remain calm because of what can happen. So I'll say that was one of my races which like I'll hold to my heart and I remember, because the reason why I'm so calm today when it's like high pressured is because of that. I say another race which I enjoyed and I'm happy with my achievement would definitely be winning this year's Welsh title. Obviously, I competed at the 100 meters at the Welsh Outdoor Championships, and I won a gold. And I realize now, at this point in my career, it isn't just about the win; it's about the journey on the way to the win. And this year's been hard to say the least, with like injuries and stuff like that. Last year, I suffered a big injury. I tore my pec off the bone last year, so it took me out for a long time. And I'm fit now, but sometimes it takes a while for your body to come back to how it was before. So I didn't have the great indoor season I had, and I know a lot of people were waiting for me to push on and do more and to do better things. But sometimes you just gotta trust God, trust the motion, which I did. And then I raced outdoors, started my season off okay, not the best, but thank God it all came together at the finals at Welsh Champs, and I won that gold. So it's just testament. But like, even though you never know what's around the corner, always hold faith and always take one step ahead, because taking one step ahead is better than just standing still. So it's the lessons I learned this year, which I enjoyed the race so much, and it just taught me a lot. That race, just enjoy the sport, enjoy it. Don't put so much pressure on winning or anything like that. Enjoy it first, because we're not in it for forever. So enjoy it while it lasts. So yeah, I say those two are my favorite races for different reasons.
I love that, man. Yeah, I mean that the life lessons contained in there as well, from the highs and the lows, absolutely brilliant. There's quite a few things you said there that I really think will benefit people listening to this. So Absolutely, absolutely amazing. Wow. So let's talk a little bit more, delve a little bit deeper into the mindset side of things in terms of, you mentioned there, you covered that aspect of it in terms of taking the pressure off yourself, enjoying the process, the faith. Brilliant, brilliant lessons there. When you're actually racing, I mean, I know it's obviously a short time, but what actually goes through your head in those few seconds from one end to the other, because this is another thing that people don't see. And I know it might almost be a strange question because it is a fast time, but obviously that's the build up to the race, enjoying the journey, taking the pressure off. When you're going down there, do you actually think about anything, or is it literally just totally in the moment and everything?
Yes, it's just total like autopilot. Um, Obviously, leading into the race, you train hard and you replicate sessions and training reps and stuff like that. So you know what you need to do in that race. So prior going into that race, even like walking up to the race or walking up to the call-up room, you say to yourself, right, I need to do this, I need to do that, and you like go through the process in your mind. And as soon as that gun goes, you just do everything you know you can do in training. And like I said, 10 seconds is a short amount of time to think about every single thing you do in that space of time when you're moving so fast. So you just got to trust the process, relax, and just do the same things you know you can do. So yeah, the answer to your question, I don't really think of much, to be honest. Just get to the line first.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, man. It makes a lot of sense. And the thing is, I was just curious because when I've interviewed people on the other end of the spectrum with like the long distance running and things like that, obviously they have thoughts come in, they have to push things out of their mind, all sorts of stuff. And I was curious for you because it's such a fast time, and it makes total sense, 100%. Obviously, we need to touch on, you mentioned earlier about being in the top 10 fastest Welshman of all time, and you mentioned being in that, holding that record, being part of history. Just to hone in on that one, because that's a very, very special achievement as well. What does that mean to you, and how does that feel, basically, to be part of history in that way, in such a special way?
It's kind of hard to put into words, to be honest. Um, it's a great achievement, of course. It means a lot to me. I think it'll be one of my biggest achievements, if not the biggest achievement I've ever done in sport for sure. Um, it's something which can't be taken away from myself. Um, and to also like be on the list with such great athletes as well who've done amazing things in the sport, the likes of Christian Malcolm, Colin Jackson, Jeremiah Azu, Sam Gordon, like the list goes on, Barry Hammond. I'm surrounded by absolute great athletes, and records are meant to be broken, lists are meant to change all the time. But when you edge yourself so far down a certain list, I feel like I'll be there in years to come for sure. And don't get me wrong, I'm still not done. I'm still looking to edge my way further down that list. But yes, I'm very, very proud of myself with that achievement because it just shows testament to all the hard work, all the sacrifices I've made. A lot of people just see a fancy time, yeah, winning the fastest ever Welshman, but to me, it shows everything I've done to achieve that, all the decisions I've made, all the all the decisions I've made to stick on the right path of life, not to do certain things, not to go certain parties, things which are going to put me back. And it's hard to say no at the time, but then when you achieve something like that, it puts everything into 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 hindsight. But that's the best thing which happened to me for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, this is the thing, hindsight is 2020, as they say, it does give you perspective on these type of things. And yeah, I love the mention of that with the sacrifices, because as you say, they seem bigger at the time. You look back and obviously it was all worthwhile. But yeah, I had to mention that because, being part of history, absolutely incredible. Now, shortly we'll talk about your future plans as well. Before we do, touching on the training aspect as well, we've mentioned that here and there. Like to touch on your favorite parts of the training, basically, in terms of what you enjoy most about your regime, because obviously it is a brutal regime, and this can go in
Yeah,
different areas
yeah.
depending on where you want to take it, but just your favorite aspects, basically.
I say my favorite part of training would be running fast. It's always great when you're running fast. The time of the year, it's hot, summertime. Um, Running fast, I don't really like lifting weights that much because because I'm such a strong guy, it's a lot on the body at the same time. So yeah, you can have fancy numbers and stuff like that, but I don't really like lifting weights so much, whether it's hard to believe or not. But I like running fast because no one likes slogging yourself around in the winter training side of things and doing 300-meter reps and stuff like that. And when you're a heavyweight sprinter like myself, slugging yourself around 300 meters on a rainy day is not ideal. So definitely summertime, running fast, competitive blocks. Those are good days. Those are days where you can like meet up with like friends from track as well. Could have a good session together. Even guys who you compete with, but you have a good relationship with as well. So just meet up with them, have a good session together. You know the saying, iron sharpens iron. So instead of competing with each other, we can always build each other. And that's what I love about competing in Wales as well, is because we all just use each other to push each other to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love that. Life lessons again. Um, One small thing to touch on as well there, and then we'll go headlong into the future. You mentioned a few times as well about your faith and about gratitude to God and about that. And I'd like to touch on that because whether people listening to this are religious people or believers or not, it doesn't really matter in that sense. But I'd like to touch on the principle of faith in the sense of actually this comes up quite often in interviews I do where people do the preparation, they do things to the best of their ability, but then after that it's almost out of their hands in a way. I mean, you can only turn up and perform to the best of your ability. So, to touch on some of the ways that your faith guides you as an athlete and as a person, but particularly as an athlete, I think that in your case that bears mentioning. I wouldn't always ask, but I think in your case it does bear mentioning if that's all right.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a Christian, a firm believer of God. Um, my faith has been strong for many years now. We're all human, so we always lose track now and again. But on average, my faith is very strong. It helps me in life, but seeing as we're talking about sport, it's always helped me because just like life, we go through many ups and downs, and God has always brought me through. And also as well, I always say to the guys around me, but it's already written. So to me, God has already made the plan. He's already made the way. So even when there's times where you think, I don't know what's next. Like I said, I was injured this year. I was coming back and stuff like that. I didn't know when I was going to run good again, but I knew I was going to because I knew that God has already had my plan written. So all I had to do was just wake up each day, do my best, and when it was time, God would find a way. And him just showing me at Welsh champs that he's still there. He's watching. He's making things happen. And I feel like, to me personally, I just feel like it was just a little reward just to say that you showed faith during the hard times. Now this is just a little glimpse of what I got to offer you as we move forward. So I'm looking forward to the future. But yeah, my faith is very strong for sure. It helps me and guides me each day through the hard times more than the easy times because anyone can push forward when it's good, but when times are hard, that's where you need to have faith for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm with you on that 100%, and I really felt that it's a powerful lesson to share with people because, in a sense, as I'm talking to you, that feeling of the faith is sort of tangible in a way. I mean, I know it might sound strange, but you have the aura of that, if you like. And I
Yeah.
thought, okay, need to touch on that. So, yeah, I mean, future plans. It's a very exciting topic to get into. As I said before, the future is very bright. There's very exciting things ahead of you. So I don't mind with this one how far ahead you want to talk about, how far ahead you're looking, short, far. That's up to you. But yeah, let's talk about the future basically.
Well, over the next few years, we obviously have Olympics, Commonwealth Games, European Championships. The list goes on. World Championships. We got a lot of major championships coming up. So of course, I want to put myself in the best position possible to compete at those. Um, the game we're in is a tall ask because there's a lot of guys who are good, but you got to push yourself up there and say, but you're one of those top guys as well. So anything can happen. So that's all I'm striving to do. I've yet to have my first GB best, but I know it's coming. So like I said, just holding faith, keep putting one step forward. I'll get that as the years go on. So I want to make all these majors, Olympics. I want to represent Wales at the Commonwealth Games. I believe it's in Australia, 2026. And having doing that I'm going to edge myself closer down that pecking order on the all-time list. I think I'm currently 8th or 9th now, so it's time to put myself further down the list now, top fives, and eventually get close to that Welsh record, and then be that guy. But as far as everything else is concerned, just put myself in the best position to achieve all those goals as possible. The best version of myself will give me the best chance to. So that's all I can do.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. Well, some amazing opportunities out there. Like I said, putting yourself in the best position possible. So, last couple of things to touch on before we wrap this up. One of them is obviously right at the beginning of this or early on. You mentioned about your coaches. You mentioned about people who've helped you along the way. Um, is there anyone else that you would like to thank who has contributed to your journey so far as an athlete, or have we sort of covered everybody from that side of things?
Um, I got a big network around me, so I'm very blessed to have a lot of people around me rooting for me, stuff like that, friends, family. But for sure, the guys who I mentioned at the start, who was at the start of my journey, Jock Anderson, Christian Malcolm, Doug Turner, Kevin Williams, those guys played a very vital role into developing me, giving me the background work to go and achieve what I've done. My current coach now, who I've been with for about 3 years, Matt Elias, we've been together, and he's helped me a lot. He's improved me a lot as an athlete. I've run my fastest times under him. We have a great relationship as well. So got to give him big love and big thanks as well, because it's a team effort. Um, but yeah, it's just like you said, everyone you are who you spend your most time with. So like teammates, I got to thank them as well, because just like life, tracks very up and down. So it's always nice to have your teammates around you to give you that nudge and give you that faith as well to push on when you're injured or you're not feeling up for it and stuff like that. So I got a lot of close friends in the world of track and field. So like Sam Gordon, Jeremiah Azu, McCoy. So those are my guys who, even though we compete against each other, we push each other to be the best athlete slash person we could be. So God's blessed me with those people for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. It's good to give them a mention because obviously, they're helping you and you're all in life together. But from the outside looking in, there's people helping you sort of behind the scenes in a way. So it's good to give them a shout out as well. And the last thing before we wrap this up, obviously, we've touched on quite a few life lessons during this in quite a short time. So we may well have covered everything because there's some fantastic things you shared about enjoying the process, who you surround yourself with, the faith, taking the pressure off yourself. I mean, there's tons of stuff. I'm going to listen to it back and pick up on some of those. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to anybody watching this who basically has a big dream or a big goal that they want to achieve? Obviously, mainly in sports, but a number of things it can apply to other life areas with, business or education or other things people are doing as well. But just any other advice you'd like to share or for those people, especially for people who are starting out or just getting going towards their dream, because even though, for you, there's a lot of things yet to come, you've also achieved a lot as well. So you're in a good position to give that advice if that makes sense. And that's it really. That's the last topic, if that's all right.
Yeah. What I would say is two things. One, I'd say discipline is key. Whether it's sport or life, discipline is key. Um, the saying, motivation comes and goes, but discipline is what gets you through the doors. It's about doing the things you don't want to do, but doing it like you love it. Um, there's been days, for example, where I've been injured and I don't want to get up and go drive all the way to training and do little bits of rehab. But I know that I have to do it because the quicker I can do that, the quicker I can get back to competing at my best. It's not all about doing the stuff when everything's going good. It's all about doing the stuff regardless of how you feel. So that would be number one. And number two, what I'd say would be always take one step forward. As long as you never stay stuck in the same place, you'll be fine. Um, when you're looking to do a new adventure, especially in an adventure where you're going to be competitive with other people, always remember the strongest people survive, and the strongest people, the people who always push forward. I see a lot of people fold under pressure. They either take backward steps or they stand still. The people who rise to the top is the people who keep pushing forward. So make a decision before you decide to go down any path. Always remember that there's going to be ups and downs, but you'll always make a promise to yourself, or you'll always push forward no matter what, and you'll be fine.
Absolutely. Brilliant advice. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Champ, I'd like to say thank you for your time and a
No
big thank you
problem.
for coming on the show. Also, big thank you for being such an open book as well, and sharing a few of the deeper aspects of this. So yeah, thank you very much. I'll release
No
this
problem.
over the next couple of days. I'll tag you when it's released. Only thing I'd say, be very grateful for a reshare if you can when it's out there. But other than that, leave the rest with me. And just thank you for your time. And I hope we meet again down the road. I'm sure we will because we're both fairly local. So fingers
Yeah.
crossed. But for now, thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have a great evening.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Thanks for having me, and enjoy your evening as well.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.